and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Kellyanne, and today we are going to be looking at adding a new family to the membership module. It's my first time back doing a webinar after our January rush, so I may be a little rusty here. Let me go ahead real quick. A few things. If it's your first time doing a GoToWebinar, you have a GoToWebinar toolbar, and on there there's a little arrow to the side, reddish colored arrow. If you click on that, it will minimize the toolbar down so it's not blocking what I'm showing you on screen. But then if you click on it again, it will open it back up. Also on your toolbar, you'll see there's a question panel. And typically we have another tech in here listening and answering questions. But Rachel is doing calls today because we have a lot of people sick or ill with the flu. So we're trying to keep as many people on the phone answering your calls as possible. So it's just me today. So if you could, you can go ahead and ask questions, but I'm going to hold off on answering those until the end. So it's a pretty easy topic. You might want to just hold your questions until the end because I will open the floor for anyone to go ahead and type in a question, and then I'll read it out loud and answer it for everyone. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start looking at membership, how to set up a new family. Now, attached to this webinar, there was a document. It's one of the documents from our website on adding a new family. But this morning, talking with Rachel, I noticed there was a newer document that showed one of the newer screens on selecting a category. So she did really quickly go ahead and add a second document to that. So depending on your version, I'm showing you the most current version, 22.19.2, but if you're on an older version, then the original document might match what you have a little better. But again, if there's screenshots that look a little different, it might be just because you're on an older version. All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to take a look in membership, which I already had open, so it would open up fast. And to add people or records into membership, we go into people to do that. And there's two ways we can do that. Up along the top, we have words along the top that will change what you see below. But in the middle of the screen, we have shortcuts that take you to the same place as some of those longer routes along the top. It's just they're more commonly used things, and it takes you directly to the screen. So if we wanted to go to people, we could click it right here in the middle, go to people, and that it would open up our first record alphabetically, unless you have it set to entry order. It's gathering the data, and here we see it opens up to the Jen Arnold family. That is the same, that shortcut takes me to the same place as if I went in the upper left to people and clicked on people just below that. So we'll open up to Ms. Jen Arnold. So here we go. We have our first record in the people files. We want to add a new individual. We're just going to add one person, but even if we're adding just one person, we still have to create their family, or what I like to call their house. So we first have to build the house over on the left side by adding a family. Then we can add that individual or multiple people to the family. Someone said I just noticed somebody said they don't have any audio. Let me really quickly let them know I have started and the audio is coming through. So it must be on their end. Give me 1 second. All right. All right, so back to what I was going to say here. So we first need to add our family on the left side, and then we'll add individuals or just one individual. Even if it's just one person, you want to add that family on the left and then the individuals. So first thing we're going to do is click Add Family. I forgot to mention, if you didn't print off the document, you don't need the document that was attached to the webinar to follow along with what I'm doing. You can still print it off later or print it from our website. Now, the first thing we need to do after we hit Add Family is select what category that family will be in. Are they going to be a member or a visitor or any of the other categories you may have created? In older versions, the first document Rachel had attached to this is the screen that looked a little different, and we've changed that screen so it's a little clearer what you're supposed to do here. So we want this person to be a member, so we'll choose member, and then I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And now we can see just the left side of the screen has opened up for me to build the house for my family. It's just a family of one, but I still, again, I'm drilling this in. We still need to add a family first before we can put just even a single person in, because we're building their house, like I said. All right, we're going to well, the document here says Casey and Dana Miller. I'm just going to show you how to add one, but we'll go ahead and call them Casey and Dana Miller since I'm following along with my document. So upper left here, I have the mailing label, and I'm going to type in the mailing label exactly what the family or the individual, how they want their mail addressed. It's not the full address. It's just their name, the family name. How do they want their mail coming to them? Mr. and Mrs. Miller. In this case, they want Casey and Dana Miller. But you kind of want to try to stay consistent with that. So you have, the same type of mailing labels. There's some examples if you're following along with the document, and I'm on the second page. So once we go ahead and put in their mailing label, then we can put their address in if we have it. And to do that, we don't type here. We click the little plus sign at the end of the line, and that brings up the window where we can put in their regular address, or we also, if they have alternates for the family, this is where you'd store those. We're just going to look at the main address for now. So I'll just put in their address. And then we can tab down. There are two lines for the address line 1 and 2. If you don't need both of them, then I would use the first line. But some people like to put the street address and the PO as well. So we can tab through the fields, and we can tab down to zip code, and we can either type that in, or you can click the drop down and look at the list that you've saved so far of your different zip codes and select it from there. Go ahead and flip to page 3. Once we add that, we can put in the country if we'd like, the city and state. All of these items that filled in automatically are filling in from us going into our membership profile under special functions and settings and telling it to add the same as our church. All right, so once we fill in what we need here, we just click OK. And now we can see in the address field it says current. This is their current family main address. And just below that, so we don't have to go into the actual address block and see it, just below here it shows what I just entered, 123 Anywhere Street, Columbus, Ohio. Now if we look across the top here, there's some different tabs for the family. We have a family info tab you can click on, and if they have an alternate phone you wanted to add for the family, you could put it here. Mailing code is frequently used to indicate, to print out labels and indicate what kind of mail the family wants. So you can fill in as much as you want or as little, none if you don't need any of that filled out. There's also an area for comments, a photo for the family if you need. And notice, because my name is a little longer, it's scooted over where I can't see that first tab. If I want to get back to that, there's little arrows where I can scroll back, and here I can see Casey and Dana Miller and get back to their original family tab. Forgot to mention down here below we have phone numbers, so I can go ahead and add in a phone number if you like. And if I want that to be unlisted, I could check that as well. Forgot to mention on the address, we can also indicate that an address is unlisted if we don't want that to print in the directory. And if we have different addresses within the alternate individual and family addresses, we could indicate on the different address tabs which one to use for the statement. So if they don't want it going to their current one, we can check which one we always want it to go to. All right, so now that I've finished adding the family record, I can go ahead and add the actual individual information. So right at the top of what I call the right part of the screen, it takes up most of the screen, the right 2/3 of the screen, I'm going to click on Add Individual. And that opens up my individual side of the screen where I can go ahead and type in the first person, Casey. Well, actually, let's see. We'll make her Cassandra. But she goes by the nickname of Casey, and whoops, I thought I tabbed farther. Tab one more, Casey. And she wants to use that nickname on reports, so we can go ahead and check that. You can go ahead and fill in as much as you want for that individual, or if you don't have everything you need, you can go ahead and save it and add more later if you need. Now, if I were to save this and go ahead, if I had a first and last name which already existed in the database, you can see at the bottom of page 4, the program would warn you that you already have someone with that name. Do you still want to add them? So let me show you real quick if I hit save. Well, let me talk about one more thing and then we'll go back to that duplicates. When I hit save, it did remind me that directory report order is a required field, and we do really recommend you fill that in. If you don't want somebody in the directory, it's okay. There's 2 things you need to fill in for someone to be on a directory. First being directory report order, which it's flashing here telling me this is required. It helps you later down the line for reporting when you're trying to just get one family listing per family. You can do that on labels easily with a dot, but for reports, one of the best ways we found is asking directory report order primary. So if we don't want this person in a directory, we can still mark them primary, but just above that, if we don't check include on directory, they won't be in the directory. Now, if we want Casey in the directory, we'd want to go ahead and check include on directory, but it's not a required field. Directory report order is. So see, we were able to save that without saying, yes, we want her in the directory, but recording a directory report order for her. All right, and now what are directory report orders? It tells you on page 5, we have several directory report orders, and these are set by the program. Primary means the first person in the directory, typically that's the husband. Secondary would mean they have the second listing in the directory, typically that's the spouse or wife. Anyone listed as child will show after the primary and secondary, and they show now in birth date order. Secondary primary separately would be most often used when a husband and wife have different last names. You code one primary, one secondary primary separately, and then they'll have a listing under each letter of their last names. One where the first person would be first, like if somebody had a last name that started with B, they'd be in the B's with their name first and then their spouse after them, and maybe the spouse's last name was Smith, so then they'd also have a listing in Smith with the Smith person first and then the other spouse's name showing after that. So having a one person as primary and one as 4 secondary primary separately is very useful when a couple has different last names, or maybe a wife kept her maiden name. Individuals separately, if you code somebody in a family individual separately, they would get a completely separate listing from anyone else in the family in the directory. All right. Now, if you look, there's all kinds of fields you can fill in here. Again, I said fill in as much or as little as you need. You can always come back and add more. The fields you see, some of these come with the program, some you create. You can create your own fields, and we do have webinars and documents that show you how to do that. I did want to really quickly, I'm almost done, but I wanted to go back. If I go ahead and click Add Individual, and I try adding, maybe I just wasn't paying attention, got distracted, and I didn't even get down to nickname. I hit Tab to go ahead and put in Casey. I thought once I hit Save, that's when it would give me that message, but I didn't even have to hit Save. Once I went past that first name field, it's already seen that there's a person already in the program named Cassandra Miller. Do you really want to add this person? Well, no, I made a mistake, so I'm going to tell it, no, don't add Cassandra. I only wanted the one Cassandra Miller. So that's a nice feature now that it will notice if you have someone of the same name in the program and stop you and ask you, do you really want to add this person? So if we take a look at, if you're following along in the document, page 6 shows you a nice little screenshot of what we see right now. Cassandra Miller, well, they didn't put Cassandra, I added that. Let me go ahead and close out and show you. If I go into people now, it's still going to open right up to Jen Arnold. But right along the top in the person lookup, if I look for Miller, there we see Casey Miller. We had a Casey Miller Jr. I didn't even realize. And I click on that name and it takes me right to my new listing that I just made for Cassandra. All right. So that is all I wanted to show you today for how to add a family.